Tensions between Russia and Ukraine have erupted in dramatic fashion. Explosions have rocked Russian-controlled Crimea, and even Moscow itself. The Kerch Bridge, a vital supply route and symbol of Russian control, was hit by a massive blast, shaking the ground and sending a clear message: the war's front lines are shifting. Soon after, a drone strike targeted the Kremlin, the heart of Russian power. These attacks weren't random. They were calculated, designed to show that nowhere is truly safe. The Kerch Bridge explosion disrupted Russian military logistics and struck at President Putin's personal prestige. For many Russians, the war now feels dangerously close to home. The Kremlin strike, though limited in damage, was a direct challenge to Putin's authority and Russia's sense of security. These bold moves have escalated the conflict, raising fears of a new, unpredictable phase. Russia's air defenses are under scrutiny, and the psychological impact is enormous. The stakes are higher than ever, with both sides now locked in a cycle of escalation. The world is watching as the conflict grows more volatile. The question: how far will each side go? Ukraine has ended its silence about attacks inside Russia. The Security Service of Ukraine, or SBU, has openly claimed responsibility for the Kerch Bridge explosion and other daring strikes. This marks a major shift. Ukraine is now sending a defiant message to Moscow: we can strike deep, and we're not afraid to say it. These operations took months of planning, advanced technology, and precise intelligence. By targeting the bridge's underwater supports and a Russian airbase housing strategic bombers, Ukraine is undermining Russia's war machine. Each successful strike is both a tactical and psychological victory. Ukraine's new policy of claiming responsibility boosts morale at home and reassures allies, but it also risks provoking harsher retaliation from Russia. Ukraine is playing a dangerous game, daring Moscow to respond while fighting to defend its sovereignty. The stakes are high, but Ukraine believes bold action is the only way to shift the war's momentum. This is a calculated risk, meant to show strength and determination. The conflict is now more open and more dangerous than ever. Russia's response was immediate and furious. President Putin vowed retaliation, signaling a new wave of escalation. Official statements tried to downplay the damage, but the anger in Moscow was unmistakable. The Kremlin blamed Ukraine for stalling peace talks and painted itself as the victim, even as it intensified airstrikes on Ukrainian cities. Civilian areas, hospitals, and schools have been hit in what appears to be a campaign of punishment. Russia's message: for every attack on our soil, we will strike back harder. Putin faces pressure from hardliners to respond with overwhelming force. The attacks on Russian territory challenge his image as a strong leader. This cycle of attack and revenge is making the war more brutal and pushing peace further out of reach. Each side feels justified, fueling a dangerous spiral. The violence is escalating and the world is bracing for what comes next. The conflict is now a test of resolve and survival. President Trump's approach to the conflict is a mix of peace overtures and military threats. He's called for a quick peace deal, urging both sides to end the bloodshed. Yet he's also proposed sending hundreds of missiles to Ukraine, aiming to strengthen Kiev's hand at the negotiating table. Trump's dual strategy, talking peace while offering weapons, reflects a belief that only strength can bring compromise. He's suggested Ukraine may have to accept losing some territory, a position Kiev fiercely rejects. Trump's envoy has discussed deals where Russia keeps seized land in exchange for security guarantees. This has created tension with Ukraine, which refuses to sacrifice sovereignty for peace. Trump has threatened to cut U.S. aid if Ukraine won't negotiate, while also warning Russia of more sanctions. His unpredictable stance worries Ukrainian leaders, who fear being pressured into a deal on Moscow's terms. The U.S. is trying to mediate, but its shifting signals add uncertainty to an already volatile situation. The future of U.S. support hangs in the balance. Amid the power struggles, Ukrainian civilians bear the brunt of the war. Recent Russian airstrikes have devastated cities like Kyiv, Sumy, and Kryvyi Rih, killing dozens, including children. Homes, schools, and hospitals have been reduced to rubble. The constant threat of attack means no one feels safe, at home, in school, or at worship. Russia's strategy appears aimed at breaking Ukrainian morale, but instead it's hardened their resolve. The international community condemns these attacks as war crimes, but the violence continues. Families live in fear, hiding in basements and bomb shelters. The psychological toll is immense, especially on children. For many, daily life is now a struggle for survival. The human cost of this war is staggering and growing. For Ukraine, peace cannot come at the cost of territory. President Zelensky insists that no Ukrainian land, including Crimea, will be surrendered. This unwavering stance puts Kiev at odds with US proposals that hint at territorial concessions. Ukraine's distrust of Russia runs deep, fueled by broken ceasefires and renewed attacks. Zelensky argues that only stronger sanctions and more weapons will force Moscow to negotiate seriously. Ukraine believes any pause in fighting will be exploited by Russia to regroup. The demand: make the war too costly for Russia to continue. For Ukraine, true peace means full sovereignty restored, not a compromise that rewards aggression. The pressure on Kiev is immense, but the resolve is unshakable. Victory, not surrender, is the only acceptable outcome. The battle for every inch of land continues. The conflict has entered a shadowy new phase: targeted assassinations inside Russia. High-ranking Russian generals have been killed in brazen attacks near Moscow, using car bombs and other covert methods. These killings send a chilling message: even Russia's top brass are not safe. Russian authorities blame Ukraine, accusing it of waging a campaign of terror. While Ukraine hasn't officially claimed responsibility, many analysts see its hand in these operations. These assassinations disrupt Russian command and sow fear among military leaders. It's asymmetric warfare, striking at the heart of Russia's war machine. For Moscow, it's a major security failure. For Ukraine, a way to weaken the enemy from within. The shadow war is escalating, adding new dangers to an already volatile conflict. Peace talks between Russia and Ukraine remain deadlocked. The core issue: Russia demands Ukraine accept lost territory, while Ukraine refuses. Recent negotiations in Istanbul produced little progress, except for limited prisoner exchanges. The US is pressuring both sides, threatening to cut aid to Ukraine or impose harsher sanctions on Russia. Washington's mixed signals add confusion, with some pushing for compromise and others for total victory. Both sides still believe they can win militarily, leaving little incentive for painful concessions. Ukraine, emboldened by successful strikes, hopes to reclaim its land. Russia, despite losses, believes it can outlast Ukraine and the West. As long as both sides see victory as possible, peace remains elusive. The guns speak louder than the diplomats. The path to peace is uncertain and perilous. The world watches as the conflict teeters on the edge of escalation. Will Ukraine's bold attacks provoke a harsher Russian response, or force Moscow to reconsider? US policy is a key variable. Trump's next move could shift the balance dramatically. If military aid stops, Ukraine faces tough choices. If missiles arrive, the war could intensify. Today, both Trump and Zelensky are at the Vatican for Pope Francis's funeral, a rare chance for direct dialogue. Any meeting could open a new path or deepen the divide. The stakes are enormous. Ukraine's future, Russia's stability, and Europe's security all hang in the balance. The next decisions by Kiev, Moscow, and Washington will shape the region's fate. Escalation risks a wider war, negotiation is blocked by mistrust. The world remains on edge, hoping for peace but bracing for more conflict. The coming weeks could decide everything.